Awesome. All right. Today, I'm very excited to be joined by Tony Wilson, who is not a fractional CFO, who is a finance partner to software development agencies. Tony, great to have you.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate the opportunity to chat.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's start with, we're going to be talking about your big success that recently came in. But I wanted to, first of all, know, why don't you like being called fractional CFO?
Ooh, I actually just recorded a video on this. There's three main reasons why. Number one, I only have about a decade of experience, which a decade is important. But when I stack myself up against other CFOs, people that I know that are like at multi-million-dollar businesses, billion-dollar businesses that are CFOs, their skill set is very different than mine. So that's one reason. Another reason is there's just a lot of baggage to the term. Like, there's not an industry standardization to it. And so rather than dealing with the baggage, I'm just like, let's talk about the results. So I focus on the results more than the title.
Awesome. Perfect. And finance partner sounds like really something accessible, and frankly, something that many businesses, and especially in your case, software agencies, could work with, could use.
That's right.
So finance partner, that's what you do. Briefly describe what you do. You help them to get from what kind of level to what kind of level?
Yeah, generally speaking, I start working with software dev agency founders at right around the 200K a year in revenue mark. It could be a little bit less than that. Sometimes it's a little bit more than that, but roughly around that point in time is when it makes sense to kind of work with me. And it's a hybrid approach that we take. It's heavy into kind of like coaching and mentoring from a financial perspective. So we do handle all the accounting and bookkeeping, but then we use the data that's hidden in the finances to help them make better educated decisions, not just like gut feel decisions, but like actual data-driven decisions in their business.
Awesome. Very good. And so when you joined, which was about 2 months ago or something along those lines, 2-3 months ago, you had one existing client like this. It's a retainer client who you are a finance partner for. Yeah. Tell me about your trajectory when you joined the program, and you recently had your first big win with us. And so tell us how the journey went from the beginning of you joining. What were you doing for your client, and how then did you replicate that and effectively double your business?
Yeah. So in order to talk about that, it's probably helpful to give some context about like me coming into the program and like why I came into the program. And so for me, so I had recently said no more to kind of my 9-to-5 type job. I was doing some contract work to make ends meet for the family, but I had raised enough money or saved up enough money where I'm like, I have given myself now a 6-month time frame. And so I wasn't profitable in those first few months, but I knew that if I could get enough clients to get myself at least at break even, then I'd be good to go. And that was really the goal for me. So I had the one client, and it was great. It was a great use case and a testimonial. But I'm an accountant by trade. I'm a finance guy by trade, not a sales and marketing guy. And so I knew that I needed to work with somebody who could help me navigate, as you call it, a client acquisition system, right? Like, I just needed to download all this information because it's a skill set I just don't have, nor have I been really exposed to. So the journey kind of went. Maybe do you want to ask me another question about that? Sorry, I may have missed it.
Yeah, no worries. No. So tell me, how was your trajectory when you decided to join? So that's clear now. You simply didn't have the sales and marketing chops, so to speak.
Right.
And so I guess the question is, since you joined, how would you describe, what have you learned? Like, and what was your kind of personal development in this context?
I think the first big thing was learning stuff like conversational prospecting. We've all been on LinkedIn long enough to have been pitch slapped before. And I knew that that's not what I wanted to be. I knew that was going to tarnish my brand. But I think the first thing that was really helpful in working through your program was coming to a good way of dealing with conversational prospecting, where you're genuinely getting to know the person and you're building a relationship and a rapport without being overly, salesy. So that was a huge win. And I think also dealing with, or like being rigorous with the approach, right? Not just like, you know, kind of blowing with the wind, but really, you know, putting pen to paper, like actually writing out your goal. Like, I want to reach out to 50 people this week, or I think like you have that leaderboard that we use, and then just being held accountable to that when we come into our group coaching calls. That was really helpful for me in order to make progress. So yeah, conversational prospecting was a big thing. And I think also, like, I'm still not an expert, and I'm still definitely learning when it comes to like the sales calls themselves. But even you being able to give me feedback on those first few calls that I had, sales calls that I had, was really insightful, right? Because like, I don't need somebody to tell me, yeah, you're doing a great job. Like, I need somebody to be like, no, you really need to up your game here. Or like, here's all the ways that this wasn't working. Like, I much prefer that type of feedback, and you do that very well. So that was super helpful. Yeah, I think when you take both the learning element, you know, the asynchronous learning that's going on, but then you also marry it up to kind of that coaching that's happening where you're giving direct feedback and we're having an ongoing conversation. Like, I needed both of those things, I think, to be successful in this.
Awesome. So tell us about the big success that you've recently had. How did that come about?
Yeah. So in some ways it feels like I stumbled into it, even though I know that I set myself up for success because I was implementing, you know, the systems. But what came about was, you know, I reached out to this gentleman via LinkedIn, doing some prospecting on LinkedIn, and we had a great exchange. It felt like he would be a pretty good fit, but I just didn't know enough. So I was like, hey, I'd love to hop on a call and just get to know you a little bit better. And so we had our initial call, and at least by the end of it, like, I wasn't like asking for, you know, a sale or anything like that. Like, at this point, I hadn't really done a lot of learning through your course about how to actually close the sale. It wasn't until after we'd hopped off the call that I realized, oh, this is what I should be doing instead. And so honestly, I thought I lost him. I thought that this wasn't going to work out. So I was just kind of like, all right, well, we'll move on. But I gave him a little bit of space, and I came back to him and said, hey, what if we connect again in January, right? Because around this time, it's like November timeframe. And he said, yeah, that would be great. And then a week later, as he's engaging with my posts, right? Because I'm posting on a daily basis too. I'm speculating here, but I'm assuming that as he sees me in his feed, I'm being brought top to mind. And so he comes back to me and messages. He's like, hey, actually, I could really use help sooner rather than later.
Mm-hmm.
And so we hop on another call. And at this time, when I hopped into that call, I had a little bit more, a couple of things that I remember taking away from the feedback you gave, but then also reading the book you recommended and watching some more of those videos was amplifying the pain. And so what I did is, rather than doing the talking, I just asked, and I just let him kind of like download to me. And then rather than just leaving it there, I would like reiterate back to him what I heard him say. And like you said, like, yeah, amplifying the pain. And then by the time, like, once we were on the same page and he knew that I knew what he was feeling and how he was experiencing, I was able to show him, all right, well, this is what I'm actually doing for my client right now. And it was speaking exactly to those pain points that he had. And so literally by the time we started talking about the price, which I think I'd given him before, but when we came back to the price, he's like, yeah, this is a no-brainer. This is easily the best investment I could make.
Amazing. That's so great. I'm so happy for you. That's good. And so what would you say, if you kind of could summarize it, what were the key things that we helped you to learn, that you were able to close them? Like you mentioned, conversational prospecting was one thing. Sales calls, right? The fact that I listened to your sales call and gave you some feedback on that, and so on. Anything else that comes to mind that has helped you to get to that goal?
I think being comfortable with maybe pressing in a little bit more than I'm used to, and like asking for the sale, because it's not my inclination, my general inclination to be that forthcoming and forthright. But I think being pretty direct. Like even that first call that we had, that one that I didn't do the greatest on, I was pretty like forward to ask, so when do you think you would have a decision by, like, and just getting a sense for that, rather than just like leaving it at that and hopping off the call. Like I at least was able to drive a little bit more at that. And I think that was something that I learned and I picked up in at least one of your videos, as well as reading the book that you had recommended.
Yeah. Awesome. Man, that's so great. And honestly, you're a perfect example of somebody who just joins. They know where they have deficits. They deliberately work on, remedying these deficits, also leveraging their strengths. You're very good at content already. When you joined, you didn't need any advice on content. You're doing that well. It's just you need a little bit of help on the prospecting and selling side of things. And boom, you're running, right? And you're going to be like in the Alpha Lead Academy for 6 months. You'll easily recoup your investment. You've all like one more month and you've recouped it. And then, you will get more clients like this. You are at a perfect kind of phase of building your actual client acquisition systems. You know what you need to do. If ever you lose a client, you can just again restart the system. And that's the goal, right? And you come at it with such a great and positive attitude. You just do the work. You ask a lot of questions. You come to every call. And that's like dream client for me. So I love that.
I appreciate that. And if I may be so bold as to say, like if I was speaking to past me, is it okay if I share
Please,
that?
by all means.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think, and this is as a numbers guy, right? A very like risk averse person. I think one of the best things you can do is really consider where you want to invest money in to grow your business. And because I knew sales and marketing was absolutely critical, but I just didn't have that skill set, this course and what you're doing here was a no-brainer investment. And then when you couple it with the guarantee that Michael, that you have to offer, it was like, yeah, of course I'm going to go with you on this. So I still stand by. I think it was a very worthwhile investment to make in my business.
Awesome. So what would you say to somebody who, when they're kind of a little bit on the fence, whether they should work with us? Maybe they think like, oh yeah, well, I'm not that bad in selling. Maybe in content, I would use some help in something like that. So they don't necessarily 100% identify with you. But what would you say to them if they're kind of on the fence, whether they're going to work with us or not?
Well, I think from what I was seeing in your content and my experience so far in the group coaching and the individual coaching, there's so much that you don't even know you don't know. I'll just say that. You might think you know a lot, but I think once you get exposed to more of the content, which there's just like a wealth of content, Michael, that you've put together, there's a lot that you don't know, and you're not going to know that until you get exposed to the content that's in there. And there's going to be certain things that are going to trigger for you that are going to be different than maybe for me, but it's not to say that it's not still valuable and it's not still going to drive growth in your business. So if you're on the fence, like I'd say, it's just a no-brainer for me.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. And
absolutely,
onwards and upwards. We've only been doing this for 2-3 months. Let's now get you a couple more clients, right?
Let's go.
Awesome, man. Good to see you. Thanks a lot.
Awesome. I appreciate it, Michael.